In the last episode, Stefan confessed to Elena about being a vampire. To prevent Damon from causing any trouble, Stefan took his daylight ring and locked him in the dungeon. Meanwhile, the Founders Council discovered that vampires have returned to Mystic Falls. It's well known that vampires fear sunlight. Bored out of his mind while hiding in the mansion, Damon decides to give some of his blood to Vicki, turning her into a vampire just to have some fun.
Drink it up. Don't drip. There you go. Good girl.
At the same time, the police discover a body in the cemetery, and the killer tried to cover up the cause of death by burning the corpse. Knowing the truth, Sheriff Forbes concludes that this is the work of a vampire. The officers find Vicki's driver's license nearby. After drinking the vampire blood, Vicki is full of life again. Since Vicki hasn't fully turned into a vampire yet, she can freely dance in the sunlight, while Damon sways in the shadows. They dance from the living room into the hallway, and then from the hallway into the bedroom, wrecking everything in their path. But when Damon sees a picture of his ex-girlfriend Catherine, his mood shifts. After Vicki finished releasing all her emotions, tears streamed down her face. She opened up to Damon, sharing the depths of her sorrow. With a long sigh, the devil decides to help Vicki escape her suffering.
I think I know what can help you.
What's that?
Death.
Meanwhile, members of the Founders Council gather. There's Mayor Lockwood, Sheriff Forbes, and journalist Logan. They're all the elites of the town and know the truth about vampires. The watch that Logan stole is the key part needed to track vampires. Mayor Lockwood assembles the watch into a compass, while Sheriff Forbes supplies the special bullets and wooden stakes. The job of killing the vampires is given to Logan. There are 3 steps to turning a human into a vampire, and all are essential. First, drink vampire blood. Then, die and be reborn. The final step is to feed on human blood. Vicki, now revived from the dead, only has one last step left before she becomes a true vampire. Despite Damon's explanation, Vicki refuses to believe it. Her recent experiences feel like a dream, and she thinks it's all just in her head. All she wants to do now is go home. At first, Damon blocks Vicki from leaving, but he quickly changes his mind. He even cruelly suggests that she should go see Jeremy first. Now, Vicki is overwhelmed by her thirst for blood, and Damon is clearly trying to push her to feed on her own boyfriend. What a devil! Although Vicki hasn't fully turned, she already has an aversion to sunlight. While getting close with Jeremy, she manages to hold back her urge to tear him apart. But no food can satisfy Vicki's hunger. Not long after, Matt arrives. He's Vicki's older brother, and the two have always relied on each other. Vicki told them not to come near her. Her heightened senses made it difficult for her to adapt, and even the slightest sound felt like a thunderbolt. The TV is reporting on the tragedy at the cemetery. The victims were all Vicki's friends. Facing Jeremy's questioning, Vicki just gave him a nudge, and Jeremy flew backwards. At that moment, Elena and Stefan arrive. Stefan immediately recognizes that Vicki is in the middle of her transformation. After telling them to leave, Stefan told Elena the truth.
She has to feed on human blood.
And what if she doesn't?
She'll die.
He believes there's still humanity left in Vicki, and he thinks he can guide her to become a vegetarian vampire. But upstairs, they have no idea that Vicki nearly lost control and almost bit Jeremy. Panicked, Vicki flees, but Stefan can track her scent. As night falls, Damon is finally able to move freely. His first stop is Elena's house. Seeing Elena's fear and hatred towards him, Damon realizes his brother must have confessed the truth about vampires. Since that's the case, he doesn't need to pretend to be a gentleman anymore. Damon bluntly tells her that he won't hurt her for now. Doing so would interfere with his grand, and very evil, plans. Hearing that Stefan is out searching for Vicki, Damon smirks and says, "That girl will be grateful to me." But Elena throws a soul-searching question at him.
Did you thank Catherine?
Damon stays silent for a long time, realizing that his brother has shared quite a bit with her. Elena thought she knew everything, but Damon told her that Stefan's story had been embellished and that he was not as righteous as he seemed. Meanwhile,
Tip for later. Be careful who you invite in the house.
Stefan finds Vicki in the woods. Vicki now believes Damon's words but doesn't have the courage to drink human blood. Stefan tries to lead Vicki down the path of a vegetarian vampire. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out, and Stefan falls to the ground. It's Logan, the journalist, who tracked them down using the watch. Just as Logan is about to finish Stefan off with a wooden stake, Damon arrives in time, killing Logan with a bite and helping his brother remove the wooden bullet. Stefan returns the protective ring to his brother. While the brothers were talking, Vicki secretly drank human blood. In the end, she couldn't resist. Elena was extremely upset to learn that Stefan had failed to stop Vicki. How was she supposed to explain this to Jeremy and Matt?
We'll come up with a story.
You mean we'll come up with a lie? I can't be with you, Stefan.
Stefan stands there in a daze. Elena leans against the door, sliding down to the floor, sobbing in pain. After Vicki becomes a vampire, the first person she wants to drain is her ex-boyfriend. Luckily, the Salvatore brothers arrive just in time. Stefan holds Vicki back, while Damon uses his compulsion to erase Tyler's memory. The brothers take Vicki back to the mansion, offering her animal blood to satisfy her hunger, but Vicki craves human blood instead. Stefan tries to persuade Vicki, telling her that feeding on innocent people is a sin she'll carry for the rest of her life. But Damon undermines him, saying, "You don't have to kill people to drink their blood, just compel them to forget afterward." Naturally, Vicki was more inclined to follow Damon's advice. With his protective ring back, Damon can finally move about during the day. Just as he was about to go out, Elena happened to drop by for a visit. Their meeting quickly turns into a battle of sharp words, but Damon is secretly pleased. He may not be able to be the caring, sensitive guy like his brother, but he's got his own roguish way of getting under people's skin. Elena has come to check on Vicki. She finds Vicki to be a problem vampire, unstable and prone to fits of anger, so Elena insists that Vicki stay away from her brother, Jeremy. This only ends up making Vicki even angrier. Meanwhile, Bonnie learns from her grandmother, Sheila, that their family descends from the Salem witches. Sheila teaches the occult at the university, where the students jokingly call her a witch, though none of them believe she actually is one. Bonnie isn't interested in hearing more history. She asks when her grandmother will start teaching her real magic, but Sheila tells Bonnie to adjust her attitude first. While Damon was drinking at the bar, he overheard Mayor Lockwood and his wife talking. He learned that they were the ones hunting vampires, and a clever plan began to form in his mind. As night falls, Vicki is finally allowed to go outside into the yard, whether intentionally or not. Damon taught Vicki the trick of vampire speed. In a flash, Vicki disappeared without a trace. Vicki heads to her house, but realizes she can't step inside. The moment she became a vampire, it was no longer her home. Matt, overjoyed to see her, tells her to come in, and only then is Vicki able to enter the house again. She doesn't say a word about what's happened to her over the past few days. Matt thought Vicki was disoriented from taking something illegal, and in a burst of anger, Vicki shattered a plate. Just then, Stefan arrives, but without an invitation from the homeowner. He can't enter the house. Vicki didn't want to be controlled by Stefan anymore, so she urged her brother to keep Stefan out. It's Halloween night, and there's a party at the school. Elena, seeing her brother Jeremy down and out, insists on taking him along, but Jeremy's mind is on Vicki, and he has no interest in the party. However, moments later, Jeremy agrees to go. What Elena doesn't know is that Vicki has already slipped away from Stefan's control and secretly contacted Jeremy. They've arranged to meet at the party. At the Halloween party, a real vampire sneaks in, blending perfectly with the crowd. Under the cover of the festivities, Vicki can freely walk among the people, but being a newly turned vampire, she can't control her thirst for blood. She hears the sound of hearts pumping, blood surging through veins. Just as Vicki is about to lose control, a figure sweeps her away. It's Stefan. Stefan warns Vicki that the hunger will drive vampires mad, and as a newbie, she can't control it yet. He tries to take Vicki away from the party, but they run right into Matt. Upon hearing his sister claim that Stefan had harassed her, Matt immediately blocks Stefan's path, giving Vicki the chance to slip away. While Jeremy is wandering around, Vicki suddenly appears and pulls him into a corner, where they start making out. Meanwhile, Damon uses vervain as bait to extract information from Carol Lockwood. Learning that it's the Founders Council hunting the vampires, Stefan and Elena weave through the crowd, searching for Vicki. But tonight, there are too many people dressed as vampires. Unbeknownst to them, Vicki has taken Jeremy out of the party, and they're now making out behind a school bus. The hunger finally overwhelms Vicki's senses, and she can't resist biting Jeremy's lip. Jeremy, thinking Vicki is just really into her vampire act, goes along with it. After tasting the deliciousness of blood, Vicki gets out of control, sucking greedily. Jeremy, now in pain, pushes Vicki away, only to see her eyes bloodshot. Looking like a demon, Elena arrives first, but Vicki easily shatters the wooden plank in her hand and tosses her aside. Stefan arrives just in time, but Vicki, now strengthened by human blood, disappears under the bus with lightning speed. Elena tries to get Jeremy inside, but Vicki grabs her and pulls her out. She's had enough of Elena, and sinks her teeth into Elena's neck. Stefan rushes in and drives a wooden stake through Vicki, her body beginning to wither and collapse. Meanwhile, Damon runs into Bonnie, who's dressed as a witch. Around her neck is the crystal Caroline gave her, the one Damon's been searching for. Damon tries to take it back, but to his surprise, the crystal burns his hand. Bonnie, frightened, runs off while Damon is left baffled. Not long after, Damon gets a call from his brother asking for help disposing of bodies is something Damon's very good at. Seeing Damon completely unmoved by Vicki's death, Elena lashed out at him in anger. He catches the first slap. But when Elena questioned him, "How can you be indifferent when everyone around you keeps dying?" Damon didn't resist and took the second slap without protest. Only Stefan and Elena can reach the tiny piece of humanity still buried inside him. Matt assumes his sister has run off again in one of her usual temper tantrums, unaware that Vicki is never coming back. Meanwhile, Bonnie goes to her grandmother's house. Sheila is visibly shaken when she sees the crystal. It once belonged to the most powerful witch of their bloodline, Bonnie's great-great-great-grandmother, Emily, who was Catherine's handmaid. Jeremy is devastated by Vicki's death. Elena felt sorry for him, so she asked Stefan to use his compulsion to erase Jeremy's memories. Stefan doesn't agree with the idea, it goes against his principles. And besides, his compulsion doesn't last long. Hearing this, Elena is a bit disappointed.
I can do it. This is what you want. I'll do it.
Damon used his compulsion to alter Jeremy's memory, making him believe that Vicki had simply left and that he should never go looking for her. Elena envies her brother for being able to forget his sorrow. Deep down, she wishes she could go back to her old, normal life too.
With everything that's happened, I can't lose the way I feel about it.
To celebrate Stefan's 162nd birthday, Lexi, a vampire who's been alive for over 300 years, suddenly visits. Her arrival takes Stefan by surprise, as they've been friends for over a century.
Happy birthday.
However, Lexi doesn't share the same fondness for Stefan's brother, Damon. When she finds out Damon isn't at the mansion, she assumes he's off causing trouble somewhere. Not all vampires can walk in the daylight. Only the Salvatore brothers possess the magical rings, something Lexi is quite envious of. Stefan has a date to attend, so Lexi stays at the mansion. When she wakes up, she finds Damon already lounging in her bed. Lexi doesn't hide her disdain. She tells Damon bluntly that she'll leave after celebrating Stefan's birthday. She has no interest in dealing with an evil vampire like him. The cynical Damon teases,
Teach me to be good.
I'm older, and that means stronger. I'm sorry. Don't ruin my time with Stefan.
Damon gifts Sheriff Forbes a box of vervain and takes the opportunity to fish for information on the police's vampire investigation. Since Damon can walk freely in the sunlight and vervain is a rare substance that weakens vampires, Sheriff Forbes begins to trust him even more. Little does she know, the culprit behind the string of murders in town is right in front of her. Sheriff Forbes shares her theory with Damon, suspecting that vampires may have found a way to walk in the daylight. The Salvatore brothers' ability to walk in the sun is their biggest secret, and this suspicion could put them in danger. Damon knows he has to do something to dispel Sheriff Forbes' doubts. Lately, Elena has noticed that Jeremy seems like a different person. He's changed many of his bad habits, become motivated, and even developed a love for studying. Elena starts to worry if Damon implanted other commands when he erased Jeremy's painful memories. Later, Bonnie comes over, eager to show her best friend the magic she's just learned from her grandmother. With a wave of her hand, she levitates a single feather, followed by all the feathers floating in the air. Elena is shocked, but she quickly accepts the fact that Bonnie is a witch after all. She's dating a vampire. After gathering intel from Sheriff Forbes, Damon turns his attention to Caroline.
I'm done being your little slave girl. You seriously hurt me, and I will... Oh my god!
Caroline had just freed herself from Damon's control, but he compels her again, and now she's fully under his command. Damon orders Caroline to host a party at the bar and send out as many invitations as possible. He's planning to use the party to execute his scheme. First, he'll celebrate Stefan's birthday, then he'll deal with the town's vampire problem, and finally, he'll reclaim the crystal. Meanwhile, Stefan sees Lexi feeding on human blood and quickly keeps her distance. Lexi explained that she never kills anyone, and the blood bags were taken from the hospital. Determined to go to the party, Lexi insists, and Stefan reluctantly agrees. They each took turns showering, but just as Lexi finished, Elena showed up unexpectedly, leaving Stefan with no way to explain. Lexi was startled when she saw Elena. The girl looked exactly like Catherine. Panicked, Elena quickly fled. Afterwards, Stefan learned about this but acted very calm. He couldn't stop praising Elena's good qualities. As night fell, Stefan went to find Elena to explain and invite her to the party, but she was still upset about what happened earlier and turned him down. Meanwhile, Lexi had already arrived at the party. Damon, as the mastermind behind the plan, regarded Lexi as the most important guest. Under Damon's control, Caroline shamelessly asked Bonnie for the crystal. Bonnie's grandmother, Sheila, had warned her that the crystal was a powerful talisman and must never fall into the hands of others, so Bonnie refused. When Bonnie wouldn't hand over the crystal, Caroline tried to grab it herself, but the moment she touched it, she felt a jolt, like she'd been electrocuted. This led to a falling out between the two friends. When Damon learned that Caroline had failed, his face darkened. Caroline felt utterly wronged. "It's just a stupid crystal," she said. "How could it be more important than me?"
You are the only stupid thing here.
Heartbroken, Caroline drank herself into a stupor, and it was Matt who ended up taking her home. Unexpectedly, he stumbled into Caroline's heart, and they got together. Meanwhile, Elena snuck into the party, only to see Stefan laughing and talking with Lexi. She couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Damon seized the opportunity to stir things up, trying to drive a wedge between his brother and Elena, but Elena knew Damon's tricks, so she approached Lexi directly. It was only then that she learned from Lexi that Stefan saw her as the love of his life. The misunderstanding was cleared up. Meanwhile, Damon began executing his evil plan. He attacked a couple making out, then used compulsion to alter the memory of a witness. Afterward, he notified Sheriff Forbes, who quietly surrounded the bar with her deputies. All the while, Damon was casually drinking with Lexi. Lexi, curious, asked why Damon had returned to town. Stefan came back for love, but what about him? Damon, acting mysterious, said,
I have a diabolical master plan.
Just then, Sheriff Forbes entered the party with her team, instructing the witness to identify the attacker. Following the girl's finger, Sheriff Forbes spotted Lexi and Damon talking. She rushed forward and injected Lexi with vervain. Damon feigned surprise. In the crowd, Stefan noticed what was happening and prepared to intervene. After being taken out of the bar, Lexi no longer hid her identity. As a vampire over 300 years old, even weakened by vervain, she was far stronger than any human. She easily threw two officers aside and stormed toward Sheriff Forbes. Regular bullets did nothing to stop her. Just as Lexi reached Sheriff Forbes, Damon appeared and drove a stake through Lexi's heart. Stefan and Elena arrived just in time to witness it. Lexi became Damon's scapegoat. With the culprit taken care of, Sheriff Forbes wouldn't suspect that vampires could walk in the daylight anymore, and Damon gained her trust in the process. Stefan was heartbroken by his brother's actions. As long as Damon was around, pain and death would follow. He had had enough. Back at the mansion, Stefan unleashed his fury on Damon, beating him senseless. Damon, feeling wronged, defended himself. Everything I did was to protect our cover, but Damon forgot that it was his wanton killing that attracted the pursuit of humans. Stefan took out a wooden stake and stabbed it into his brother's chest.
You saved my life. I'm sparing yours. We're even. And now we're done.
The Salvatore brothers were always hurting each other. The more the wounds hurt, the deeper their bond seemed to grow.